Hello everybody and welcome back to the action, and this time it's the quarterfinal stage featuring the world number 1 and the world number 6. Judd, the ace in the pack, is going to be against John Higgins, the Wizard of Wishaw, as we prepare for another blockbuster, well, clashing between the two of them. I mean, the best way to describe the head-to-head matches in between Higgins and Chomp is, you look back on the first match ever in between Chomp and Higgins. It was the World Championship final in 2011. Of course, the championship that John Higgins managed to, well, take his way there after defeating Judd by 18 frames to 15. Very different story this time around. It is for a stage in the semi-final. And, both players have been struggling for the majority of the season. But right now, both of them are probably going to come as, well, certainly high contenders there, should any of them win this match for their overall triumph here in Belfast. I think you have to give the edge there to Chomp in terms of him being the reigning champion and the world number 1 there. The reigning champion of UK Championship, of course, because the current winner of the Northern Ireland campaign is going to be Karen Wilson. It's going to feature later on against Jack Lizowski. So some brilliant quarterfinal setup already. And in terms of the score prediction, I understand that, it's impossible to predict with any sort of integrity those types of matches, but if I had to go for the scoreline, I still think that, Chomp is going to be a bit of a favourite in this match, and overall, I think it's going to be a massive challenge for John Higgins to try and play similar sort of snooker to what he has produced yesterday against Si Jiahui, pretty much averaging sort of half mistake per frame, as he managed to take a commanding lead and a commanding win there over the Chinese world number 14. And Judd himself wasn't playing too well from my point of view, and struggled against Gary Wilson in the middle stage of his encounter. In the end, managed to overcome all of those issues and managed to come out on top there. So it's now Chomp there with a little chance to send the cue ball up the table and in towards the balk line. In fact, he's put the red that was put there previously by John Higgins exactly on the balk line, so that's going to be a straightforward safety there for Higgins to try and play. As has a look towards the positional play, so clearly just trying to get that red to be sent towards the main pack of reds. As he tries to accelerate the cue ball up the table and in towards the balk line. I don't think he was actually trying to go for a double. He was very close to making that one. In the end, he catches the back jaw of the middle pocket there. And he's going to be, well, giving back the initiative to Chomp at least. And I think potentially he could give away a shot there of the left corner for Judd Chomp. And of course it's the first ranking event quarterfinal of this season for Chomp. And what a way to start there. What a fluke for Judd Chomp, and what an introduction into the opening frame. I definitely want to see that one back, because he misses the pot in towards the left corner. The red goes along the cushion, cannons into the yellow, and gets himself in towards the yellow pocket there. So a massive fluke to get us on the way, but ultimately probably the one that is only going to earn Judd Chomp a single point here. Going to be difficult to get the brown in. So just uses the brown as a nice little cushion there for the cue ball to send the white in behind the green. Nice shot there from Chomp. Probably playing to the maximum that was actually available to him at that time. And now just has to make sure that he's going to be able to mount on the little bit of luck that he managed to produce at the start of this encounter. And Higgins has to try and respond back with some decent safety of his own. So for now, just send the cue ball down the table in towards the reds. Nice little shot in terms of the cue ball control. One of the reds has gone very close towards the right corner though. Ultimately, the cue ball and the red have ended up in a straight line here. So, Trump can go for the red, but unless he manages to control the cue ball in terms of the potting angle, and just has to make sure that the cue ball is going to miss the entire pack of reds there if he wants to land himself on the colour. The green and the brown are going to be among the options there to try and consider. So important shot this is now for Judd. And if he tries to control the power, it's going to be difficult for him to get the cue ball past the reds. But, he had to pot the red first. And that That was the task too many for Judd, and he's unable to put that one into play. Higgins just having a little look to see if he'll have a red himself available towards the left corner. And, after an early fluke from Trump, in the end it looks like the first real chance is going to go towards Higgins. As he can indeed see enough of that red to go in towards the left corner. Just having a look to see if the pink is going to be available in the opposite side of the table. And into the right corner there for him. So if you just push through this red there, you'll be able to get yourself on either blue or pink. Depends on which color is going to be his preference here. Overscrewed slightly there for the blue, but it's still going to be fine. In terms of the red's position, one of them has gone very close towards the black here, so the black is going to be out of position for a bit here. The fact that Higgins didn't really want to play for the pink either, despite it probably being the prime option in terms of getting on the next red. Probably gives you a sign that the pink is not going to be too available either at this stage of the frame. As the first real shot there is a decent approach there by Higgins in terms of him trying to get on two reds at the same time so that he has got a backup to his name. In the end, he's probably run himself a bit awkward on the shot in towards the left corner. And has no intention to go for the risky thin cut red in towards the right middle though. So just has to get his cue ball past the red and try and get the red in towards the corner. And in the end, only just about makes that one. And compromises himself on the exit for the pink, which does seem to be possible there in towards the right corner at the end of it. So Higgins has to be careful with his approach. As we've seen with Wilson yesterday, in the opening frame especially, Judd was in a clinical mode in terms of the break building. Produced breaks of 95, 83 and 132 when he was able to defeat Guy Wilson with a scoreline of 4 frames to 2 I should say. And in the end, it's looking like John Higgins is still going to be able to do some more damage on this break, as the pink is going to have to go on the brown spot. So Higgins has to make his way around the blue at this stage of the frame, as he's now 12 points clear already, and has to ensure, of course, he's going to be on the right side of the blue every single time here. And going to get the blue in this time around in towards the right middle, and he's got the nice little positional shot on here. I think he can try and take the red out of the game, which is very close towards the right middle for him, or instead he can try and go down the table and get himself lined up for a shot, which will have the natural angle to send the cue ball towards the blue, but I think he's overrun for that one. So he may still have to go for the shot in towards the middle, which you always want to save for later on here, but with the way position has actually panned itself out, you have to stay in it and you have to try and make sure that the break is going to continue. And nice little shot from Higgins in terms of getting the pot in. It doesn't want to be straight on the pink here, although you'll have the green to his advantage. So probably green is going to be his shot to go for. Get the cue ball on towards the right hand side of the cushion. And well, if you talk about the two players of them, and you can also say that John Higgins has had a brilliant campaign so far. He only had to lose one frame of his encounter with Liu Heathcote and Si Jiawei, and of course faced another Chinese player, Pang Jung-soo. It was off to a bit of a shaky start there, losing the opening frame. In the end, managed to recover and get himself into a decider clash, which still managed to come out on top there. Right now has a difficult green in towards its own pocket, not quite off the spot there. So has to make sure he nails the pot there and sends the cue ball towards the lower part of the table. So clearly felt like there was no red for him to try and play for. In the end, had to make his own magic here, and in the end doesn't look like it has worked out for him. So we'll be hoping for a touching ball and get the cue ball away from the pack here in the best possible manner for him. And if that is not the case, just a little touch on one of those reds, and once again they're getting the cue ball in towards the green and the yellow. Nice shot there by Higgins, so decent recovery in the end. The break of 23 points, it still feels like it could be a significant, points advantage over Chum had the position stayed the way it has been previously. But of course, with the last shot of Higgins' attempt of development of the Reds, it's actually gone quite successful, barring the fact that hasn't actually managed to land on any of those Reds. And Chump with a really nice shot, and first time of asking, he gets this Red full in the face there with pretty much no pace to spare at all. Probably has given away a touching ball this time around though, so Higgins will try and send the cue ball a bit closer towards the green and yellow pack to make sure the Chump is going to be facing even more issues than he already had on the previous shot. So of course, the way that Higgins managed to build his campaign against Si Xiaowei, Pang Junxu and Louis Thikyo has been his consistency on the safety play and just the lack of errors. You know, he can run himself out of position, but it's very unlikely, just like the likes of Mark Selby and Sean Murphy to an extent, he's very unlikely to take a risky shot there, which is going to get him into trouble. As, for now, once again there, Chum just has to have a look and see which is going to be the best way for him to try and get on towards the main pack of Reds. So this time, it doesn't seem to make it from the first time of asking. So just give me a little look to see if Higgins will want that cue ball to be put exactly where it was previously. And that is going to be the case. So pretty much no consideration at all. And Trump will have to go for attempt number 2 as well. So very close there. Just has to adjust trajectory ever so slightly with him doing the 2 cushion escape. First the left-hand side of the table, then the right one. And adjustment made brilliantly there for him. Gets it even better than it could have been from the first time of asking. He's now 26 points clear. With that 107 on the table is John Higgins. In terms of the Reds now, the way they've actually spread themselves out after the early attempt from Higgins to actually have himself lined up on the position that could actually win him the frame in that visit to the table. In the end, it's only, realistically, the only issue you could have here is the fact that the pink is currently on the brown spot and the black is covered up by the red. So, you know, if you're going to have a color to use, it's going to have to be either ball colors or the blue at this stage. And just having a look to see if Trump can get through to that red and try and get it potentially in towards the left corner. In the end, he was checking for a good amount of seconds there to see if there was a route past the other reds in towards the left corner. In the end, decides to go for a safety shot. So, really, nothing that would please him in that time of asking. But he played a decent safety shot there, obviously trying to push Higgins into some sort of trouble and get himself to play with as tight of an angle as possible, which is going to compromise the position of the cue ball when he tries to bring the white back up the table. And nice little shot play, to be fair to him. And just gets that red towards the right corner, but as he's going to rest on the cushion. Once again, brilliant shot there by Higgins, and what a response so far. Flawless safety play from both of the players, but Trump that is going to be facing a massive problem here with him trying to get on this red in towards the right corner. I mean, realistically, he has to go for a 2 cushion escape and try and nudge it towards the left corner, away from the right corner pocket there. But, you know, it's easier said than done, and it's going to be really difficult for him to actually get through to that red. So, maybe just trying to skin the edge of one of those reds and get the cue ball as far up the table as you can. Decent effort. In the end, doesn't look like it's going to get him into a safe place, though. As Trump is now still 26 points down and now gives away another chance to John Higgins. In towards the right corner here. So, as I say, the only problem for Higgins is going to have to be the fact that he has to travel a long way for the cue ball to land on at least one of those colours. And, in the end, doesn't look like it's going to be an easy task for him to try and do. I mean, the route is there for him, but you know, it's a route that you can actually follow with a safety shot, not so much with the attacking shot, because you're limited with the way you're going to actually send the cue ball. And yeah, Higgins decides against that in the end. So clearly, An attacking shot not worth taking on, and a nice little response from Higgins himself as he gets the cue and tries to get the cue ball in behind the pink and green pack. And it doesn't look like he's covered the red on the left hand side though, the one that he's played previously. I mean, Chomp is having a look to see if he can try and pot this one, but of course once again he'll have to force the cue ball very much the long way around to get itself lined up on some of the top colours. And in the end, even though he missed the red, the way he's actually managed to get the cue ball up the table has been very interesting indeed, and very successful shot in terms of the safety now. Even though he missed the red, still finds himself in a pretty comfortable situation, and he has to try and play the same red there for the third time of asking. Get the left hand side edge of it and push it towards the main pack. I mean, caught that one way too thick, but in the end, once again, sublime cue ball position. He's not going to trouble him too much here. In fact, he's probably going to put more pressure on Judd here, because once again there, the reds that both players have been using as the cushion for safety, he's gone very close towards the right middle pocket, but just about on the lower part of the table, in contrast to the cue ball being very much on the ball cushion. So Chomp can have a look to see if you get through the gap in between the pink and the green. Doesn't seem to be the case from the way the camera is looking at it. And even if it is, I mean, it's going to be impossible for him to actually control the way he's going to hit this red, surely. And Rob Spencer having a good look at this to make sure he's going to be intact. And, in case Trump misses this shot, he's going to know where the pink and green were positioned previously. So Trump just to send this red towards the left-hand side of the table. And he's tried to potentially pot it. In the end, missed it by very little margin. But ultimately, it is going to be enough for John Higgins to finally get himself on a chance that he can't actually refuse here. It was a really good effort there from Trump. Obviously trying to get the cue ball somewhat safe by catching the jaw of the middle pocket in the end. So would have still been positioned nicely for the blue had the red dropped in. Would have been very difficult for Trump, of course, to manage, having played that shot with such immense power, to make sure he got some of the traction on the cue ball. And in the end, it's John Higgins that are going to be presented the second chance now, and another invitation to close off the opening frame. Certainly, it's only going to be the second time in this tournament campaign that Judd has lost the opening frame. First one was, of course, against another man from Scotland, Anthony McGill, in the first round. Trump has managed to win 3 frames on the bounce since then, get himself a commanding lead of 3-1, and managed to convert it from the second time of asking, so he could book himself into the last 32 with a scoreline of 4 frames to 2. He's not going to be able to do that here though, because it's finally the first to 5 matches format. And right now Higgins gets himself on this red a bit too straight here after potting the blue. So once again, just having that issue of only having the blue available. Of course, the black is now available in towards the right corner pocket, but still doesn't look like it's going to be used by Higgins anytime soon. And once again, fantastic piece of cueing there from Higgins. He's going to be very unlucky if he ends up straight on the brown here. And I mean, that is going to be the case. So there's going to be an awkward shot there for him to play in terms of getting this blue into the left middle and still trying to control the cue ball enough there so that he's going to land on the next shot in towards the right or left corner for the red. And he tries to go for it now and just sees that it's going to be a lot more of a difficult shot than he actually seems, even though the cue has only just about gone above the blue line. Having the brown in the way and queuing over it and bridging over it, it's going to be very, very awkward. Not just the positional play for Higgins, but also just trying to get this blue in there. And in the end, it does look like the blue is in, but the position, as I say, was always going to be compromised on the red. Ultimately, it's now 38 points of a gap for Higgins' point of view, and in his favour. And still 91 points on the table currently as it stands. Higgins can try and go for the red. in towards the right corner, but that's not going to be the one realistically that he can sort of guarantee himself that he's going to get it first time. And also the fact that the cue ball is going to travel in towards the bulk area, which is going to make the positional play in the next colour even more difficult. But Higgins had a look at the plan there in towards the right corner, and in the end he manages to make it in a brilliant style there. Once again, as I mentioned, getting the cue ball up the table and way behind the bulk line. So if any of the colours are actually going to be available there to him, it's going to have to be green. In towards his own pocket, maybe the brown, if he just passes the yellow into the right middle, maybe actually is going to be a better option. As Higgins has a look there, although it's still a long way for the cue ball to travel to get to that brown. So it's not a guaranteed pot there from Higgins' point of view, but he manages to navigate his way perfectly once again here. So the break of 17 points is actually giving him a gap of 43 points now with 83 on the table. And finally, well, I was about to say that finally the black could have been potted, but of course the brown couldn't go back on his spot because the pink was there, and the most expensive spot that was actually available there for him was the black spot, which Rob Spencer managed to squeeze the brown in towards. So he's going to compromise the black for a couple of more shots here at least. But as the room is going to be a bit more free of space there in terms of the reds being spread out quite nicely. He's going to have Higgins trying to navigate his way through those reds and very nicely on towards the right hand side of the pocket this time around. So placed through the red now, so clearly trying to get himself on the brown. If it's going to be the black or brown, I think he's certainly going to eliminate the black spot and make sure that the next shot is going to be available there for Higgins to finally take on the most expensive of the colours. And you know, Chomp was a significant favourite going into this match, but of course Higgins now closing on to win the opening frame is going to put the odds in his favour. I think Chomp is still going to remain the favourite just for these moments in time. But should the gap extend to 2 or even 3 frames of a cushion, the picture is going to be changed very drastically there. And for now, Higgins just closing in on his hunt for the opening frame. He's now 55 points clear, so the brown will make it 59 points, with 59 still on the table. And the next red is going to be very much the red that is going to eliminate all the hopes of Judd to get himself back in this frame. Had to spend the majority of it sat in his chair after losing 2 of the safety battles there, which John Higgins managed to make his way through brilliantly at the start and in the middle of the frame. Now has to go for an extension, and just having a look to see which rest is going to be used there for him. Should be GGCA, certainly. I still think, you know, the red and a colour will make sure that Chomp is not going to be back at the table, because the red will put him 60 points clear with 51 on the table at that time. And the next brown will just ensure that there's not going to be any other snooker hunt. That's nicely played there by Higgins, and indeed this time around he's going to be playing the black for the first time. So get himself 67 points clear with 51 on the table. 4 snookers needed there for Chomp. I don't think we're going to see any more of the world number 1 at the start of this match, and the start of the match that has gone exactly the way that John Higgins would have liked it to. Finally separates the black and the brown in between the two of them, as the brown is still going to go on the black spot just for a couple of more shots there. And the black is currently sitting on the pink spot, and John Higgins is going to try and remove it and have it respotted there into the right middle. Just about gets that one in. So now 2 really good breaks there from John Higgins. Now about to make it the first 50 plus break and get himself, well, a significant break value on the first frame. The break of 23 points got him a nice little lead at the start of the frame, and of course from the second time of asking he managed to take it to a next level and get himself frame 1 from pretty much two visits to the table there. Judd has gone for a very risky shot in towards the left corner. There's once again there, really nice shot from Higgins to get one more red into the play. So probably we'll try and play the green here with no point taking the pink out of its spot for now. Because it's just going to be respotted back onto it. Well, that's what I thought. And John Higgins obviously feels like, if he has to take a collar, he may as well take the one with the highest value. Still not going to be enough for a century break though. And the highest that he can manage here is going to be the break of 88 points, which is not going to happen there. Higgins obviously trying to sacrifice the passing angle of the yellow to get himself on towards the green. Didn't actually happen in towards the right corner pocket. And it's now the opening frame to John Higgins as he now leads the world number 1 by 1 frame to 0. And it's a really good start there from the Wizard of Wishaw as he is looking to become second highest seed left out in the tournament. After, of course, number 1 is going to be the reigning champion, Karen Wilson. Here to play his match against Jack Lisowski, which is going to be quite a challenge there, especially with the way Jack and the tenacity and speed that he's been playing in this campaign so far. And the odds are going to be very equal now in between Chomp and Higgins. It is now 190 for each. In terms of the odds on who's going to be the first semi-finalist to finally make their way in towards the later stages. And of course, the one-table format here at Belfast. John Higgins has done everything right to make sure that he's got the first piece of the jigsaw in the right place. And now he's got 4 more of those to go. If he is to produce a minor sensation here, knock out the world number 1 once again here. Make sure that he's not going to reach a semi-final for the first time in this season, as he's yet to sort of get himself on the winning streak after not winning a tournament for 11 months there. His latest triumph has gone in the UK Championship, the Triple Crown event, last season in late November. And ever since, it has been a little bit of a ranking trophy drought there for him. Getting close on a couple of occasions, being the semi-finalist of the World Championship last year, of course. But as he lost out to Mark Williams, was unable to make it with a very exciting clash with Zhao Xington. That did indeed become China's first World Snooker Champion in 2025. There's still 2 tables up, say that because tonight both matches are the same. Yep, absolutely. They have removed the 3rd one and managed to get some more crowd off there. But it is going to be 2 tables because we're going to have Mark Cullen against Joe Yulon. And we're going to have one more match, which is, I think, is going to be Tom Ford against Joe Yulon there. Sorry, so Mark Cullen is going to be playing against Jordan Brown. So 2 players from Northern Ireland are going to be competing each other after Alan managed to overcome another player from Ireland there, with it being Aaron Hill. And Jordan Brown managed to overcome the recent, probably the player most informed there, Sean Murphy, being the runner-up at the China Grand Prix and the winner of British Open, has been dispatched in once again a tactical battle there with Jordan Brown as we get the second frame underway. So indeed, still 2 tables on there, like worries, and still think it could have been done in a different way there. I suppose you could have had 2 quarterfinals being played at the same time, and probably, in terms of the ones that they've actually chosen, you would like to see Judd Chomp and Karen Wilson both play separately from each other so that the fans could actually witness both of their campaigns. And what a shot this is to get us underway once again from Chomp as he gets himself a point on the board. That was the only point that he scored in the opening frame, coming from a fluke, of course. No sign of a fluke this time around, as it's a brilliant pot there. John Higgins could not have done anything more on the break-off. And in the end, once again there, Chomp is going to be handed a chance there. Very much hard-earned and well-deserved here, as the black is available to him. So this could be very much a high value of a scoreline if Chomp manages to take this break to the next level and make it the one that counts for him. Right now being 9 points clear, John Higgins already. And the way the Reds have actually spread themselves out, on top of the 2 that Chomp has already managed to get, he's got 6 more available until he has to get through to the ones that are going to be very close in below the pink. So far the match has started probably in the best possible way for the neutral fan. And not in the worst possible manner for either one of the players. As Trump is going to get himself up the table here. And try and play for the blue or maybe the bold colours. As he gets himself pretty much straight on his green. So I think he would have been better off on going for the yellow. And just send the cue ball down the table there. Use the right hand cushion if he needs it. But in the end, of course, it's his decision to make. And let's have a look if he is going to use the cushion there. Or he's going to try and naturally get the angle on the cue ball. And he's going to go for the natural angle. So, in the end, managed to maximize the performance at that time. And he's going to be in the prime position once again here for the next red. In towards the left corner. Very nicely played once again here by Chom. 21 points clear. The black is going to make it 28 there for him. And a couple of more reds. Say a couple of more, at least 3 more available. And you take one of those out of the way, and you're going to have 4 of those available there for Trump. When, you know, if you have 4 of those added to the 28 points that you already managed to score, all of a sudden you get yourself a gap of 60 points there on John Higgins. Out of absolutely nothing, out of a good chance you would have thought for, you know, another safety battle there from Higgins' point of view. In the end, it was a brilliant shot there from Trump to get himself on this break as he cannons the red away from the pack there. So just reassuring us that he's going to have 3 more reds after this red and black combination. He's now 36 points clear, so that 60 points gap is still on there for him. Try and get very close to the highest break of the match so far, set by John Higgins with 61 points. Uses the entire jaw of the pocket there on purpose, clearly getting himself as wide of an angle as possible on this black. In towards the left corner, play that one with sheer power. And I say sheer power, he managed to get the angle which was enough there for him to just guide the cue ball and get himself lined up on one more red in towards the left corner. So finally, you know, something and good signs of a really good game there from Judd. You know, we've seen John Higgins perform that, but I still think we've not seen the best of Judd yet. We've seen glimpses, but we haven't seen the century breaks consecutively coming up. Nowhere is Judd performance. And we're about to witness it at the stage when it matters, as he has a look to see if there's going to be a plant there available for him in towards the right middle. In the end, and going to try to get the cue ball in towards the main bunch of reds here. And is he going to get himself on the red? Because that's going to be the shot that he's going to lose him the break, or he's going to win him the entire frame here. As the camera just focuses on the brilliance of the shot there with the way the reds are spread out. But, I mean, the way that Trump is having a look at this is probably going to give me a sign that he can't actually get through to this red. And, I mean, the one that he's looking at right now is clearly possible. So I think he'll go for it. And he's going to be able to guide that one in towards the corner nicely. So, still no sign of slowing down just yet. You know, brilliant split on the previous shot. Very difficult to actually achieve the perfect outcome there for you, especially after doing that off the black. But at that time, Judd managed to achieve just a perfect outcome there for him. And just gets the cue ball in towards the pink. Pushes that one in towards the other reds, clearly on purpose. And he's now 58 points clear of John Higgins. And now just guiding the red in towards the left corner. So nice little shot once again to get the cue ball up the table and set up for the shot of the blue in towards the right corner. Once again, he's going to have the cue ball down the table and potentially sent in towards the pink, but I think he'll just want to hesitate for one more shot there and get the red eliminated in towards the right corner. And of course, when he's going to have no of these reds to actually play for, then it's going to be a logical outcome for him to play that type of a shot. But he didn't want to hesitate, and he wanted to play the shot of the cue ball in towards the reds right here, right now, and compromised himself, to be fair, on the shot in towards the left middle. I think it's going to be his only option. He's still not over the line quite yet. He needs a red and a colour to make sure he's going to be fine here. from the pursuit of John Higgins, but he's going to get this red really, really nicely there. Get himself lined up on towards the brown as well to get the cue ball down the table here. And once again, after a very quick opening frame, and at that time, John Higgins needed 2 visits to the table, and the breaks of 23 and 61 points. Doesn't look like Judd Trump is going to need 2 visits of the table here, as he decides to go for the green instead. And be short on the pace on the cue ball though, but ultimately he's now 68 points clear with 67 on the table. So the red to ensure that the frame is going to be won there. And very much end in his favour. And nice little shot there once again in towards the right corner. So 69 points for Judd Trump, making that 76 here. Could we see a first little century break of the quarterfinal? Very much similar to the one that he's managed to produce against Gary Wilson yesterday in the opening frame. Very much doing that off the break-off shot of his opponent as well at that time. And as he wants to re-establish himself at back level with John Higgins, it was very important for either one of the players to make sure that their opponent is going to be not running away with it there and turning it into a competitive performance and match. And still a very much a high value of a break here, using blue and green 2 times there of asking. Apart from that, maximalising all of those points there with the black and red combination. So still on the cards for 1-3-5 of a break. I think it's going to be very close to the best break that Judd Trump has had throughout the entire season here. Of course, it's not quite going to reach the maximum that he's produced at the Xi'an Grand Prix. But it's still going to be a very, very good performance there for him if he gets the black in. I mean, I say that because he's missed the black in towards the left corner. And in the end, it's not quite a century break, but it's still a nice little break there from Judd Trump to get himself underway. As it's now, all of a sudden, blinky or miss it. It's Judd Trump now with the frame on the board. And it's John Higgins 1. Judd Trump 1 back level after 2 great performances earlier on here from the 2 players, the world number 1 and 6. Playing and performing very much up to their very best here. As Trump just has a little look to see. He could have played that shot a bit better. He could have always rolled the black in to get himself a guaranteed century. And he clearly was feeling that. He could have had it either way and, produce a break of a higher value, entertain the fans a bit more and get himself a touch more of the playing time here. In the end, he has to settle for a break of 93 points, but in the end, once again there, it has to be very disappointing for John Higgins' point of view, because, he's played the 1 shot in that entire frame. And that, of course, was the break-off. Now, right now, Judd Trump is going to play this break-off, and ideal scenario for Higgins is going to be try and respond to find a chance there in towards either left or right corner for him to try and play. But, of course, that's going to depend massively on the shot that Judd Trump is going to produce himself. So, for now, this player is still waiting for the referee to re-establish the reds and the colours in the way they have been on the previous time of asking. So we're about to get the 3rd frame underway very, very shortly here. And definitely, I think if he is going to be Judd Trump, he's going to be remaining as probably the favourite for the tournament, even though Gary Wilson is currently still on a win streak of 9 matches here, if you count the last year's campaign here at Belfast. And he hasn't lost a single one yet. Judd Trump has probably had a little bit of a more difficult opposition coming through the likes of Jackson Page, Anthony McGill. Doing that to Gary Wilson yesterday. Now, of course, having to face a multiple-time world champion and the 3rd highest seed that was actually participating in the entire tournament, John Higgins. Probably the opposition doesn't get any more difficult than that for you. And Trump has to show somewhat the same performance as he managed to produce in frame number 2. And ultimately try and get himself a nice little break off to start the frame. And looks like he is going to leave a nice little red as an invitation there for Higgins. In towards the right corner. But probably still not going to be much of a threat there for Trump in terms of Higgins rarely takes on those chances, unless he guarantees it, a shot in towards the next colour. So probably just send the cue ball down the table and the red in towards the ball carrier. And have the chump play exactly the reverse shot of that. Once again, just having a little look at that red as Higgins plays a really nice shot there, getting the cue ball perfectly on towards the black ball cushion. And right now, just having a look to see if he can get through to that red, potentially available into left middle, or maybe just using one of them as a shot to get the cue ball up the table here. And indeed, he was playing the red that was highest of all of them and closest to the pink at that time. But even though he got the cue ball perfectly on the ball cushion, I still think he could have played the shot in a better way, because it leaves the chance there for John Higgins to take that red on towards the right middle pocket there. Of course, the main challenge and the question has to be, can he get on the colour from here? And the way Higgins is, and his body language is suggesting, it's probably the fact that he's going to be considering other shots opportunities there for him. And has a little look down the table to see if he's got any of the reds available that are going to be easy of a safety shot there. But unless you get really thin of the edge there of one of those reds on the right hand side of them, just underneath the pink, get the cue ball in towards the green pocket, very close to it, you're always going to leave that red at least for a safety there for Chom. So I think from Higgins' point of view, you may as well take it. If not as an attempt of a pot there, then just try and take it out of the game and get the cue ball lined up for the top part of the table once again here. And that's exactly what Higgins has tried to do. Clearly, no sign of actually trying to pot it, but the cue ball is not going to be as perfect as it was on the previous shot of asking. That's just going to give a little chance there, and a little foot for third now for Judd Trump in towards taking the red on into the left middle. I mean, if you can try and play this shot there and stun the cue ball, get himself lined up on a shot at the pink, he just has to make sure that he's not going to leave anything easy there for John Higgins. And, you know, if he's going to sacrifice some of the position on the colour, so be it. But this position, in the way it is currently, you can't give it away very cheaply there to Higgins, because most certainly he'll make you pay for it. And, I mean, the good thing about John Higgins' shot was, of course, the red that is sent in towards the top part of the table is not visible to Chomp unless he plays a cushion first shot. And he can't really send the cue ball up the table either, because there's going to be red there waiting for Higgins. So he pretty much forced himself to take this red into the middle, or so I thought, into the middle. In the end, he takes it in towards the yellow pocket. And let's see if he's going to give anything away here to Higgins. Probably not, because the red that he's played for has gone above the pink, and is not going to be visible to Higgins. So unless the red that, you know, Chomp was considering to play on the previous occasion is actually going to be possible there for him. And it does seem to be very close, but I mean, it does go through to me, but you're not going to have the cue ball lined up for the black ball cushion, or it doesn't actually make sense to take the shot on at all. If you're going to play it on for the pink and you miss this red, well, you know, giving away the position to John Higgins ain't going to be nice, but neither it is if you actually give it away to the world number one. So it's a very important shot there, as it was for Chom previously. It's now Higgins' point of view to try and deal with it, and he's gone for it, and what a perfect shot this is. I mean, he could not have played this one any better at all. Gets himself on the pink into the right middle. And what a shot under pressure, as I say. Was always going to leave a red available for the green pocket of a shot there. Was actually going to leave a red in towards the right middle as well there for Chomp, which you have to feel like the Judd would have taken on there and most likely have actually potted. In the end, he gets John Higgins a brilliant chance to get himself some sort of a points cushion here after his gap of a single frame has been evaporated there on the previous time of asking from Judd Trump himself. So now take the pink in towards the middle, get himself lined up for the red in the same pocket. And play that one really nicely again here. Gets himself a couple of reds to choose from. Ultimately, the pink will have to go back on his spot here, which is going to be a bonus at this stage for Higgins, which, of course, sees the black still compromised at this stage, but ultimately possible in towards the left corner. So if Higgins manages to find a way past these reds combinations, as he just about drops the red in, going to get himself lined up nicely on this black as well. And ultimately it was, you know, nice little safety play to start the frame off, but ever since it has been, brilliant performance from John Higgins. And now get himself into a very difficult red at that time, as he takes the black in towards the left corner, and very unlucky here. I mean, once again there, just after the fluke in the opening frame from Judd. This time it's going to be a fluke from Higgins himself, which he didn't need. He gets the black in, but with an attempt to spread the reds out, he puts the red as well at the same time as he drops the black in towards the left corner. Obviously, he's going to be given away as a foul there to Chomp, and he's going to present him with a chance of taking the red in towards the yellow pocket. Ultimately, probably going to be the only point that Chomp is going to score here, apart from the points that he can actually get from snooker play. And if you get this one in towards the right middle, Chomp has to make sure he's got enough power on the shot, and he hasn't. And he's going to give away a free ball now. And, I mean, it's a bit of a calamity now from Chomp's point of view, because it's not like Higgins made any error. He was really unlucky with that shot. And now Chomp is going to put himself under all sorts of scrutiny. And, well, of course, as you would expect from Higgins, he just asked Chomp to play from this position, which he got himself under, to be fair. So now play the cue ball in towards the left-hand side of the reds. It's not going to be an option there, so clearly trying to do that from the right-hand side, but have to try and do it from the lower part of it, of course, to make sure that you're not actually going to shot the red in towards the left middle and make it visible there to Higgins. And looks like he's going to catch the pink in the progress. So yeah, he wasn't even close to getting to the right line of the pink there. Schoolboy error. Yeah, it was one of those that, you know, it's your shots that you practice and you inevitably are going to miss on one of the 10 occasions, but it's never nice when it actually comes against you, especially in the quarterfinal, especially against a player like John Higgins. And it looks like he's going to pay the ultimate price here, because Higgins has been left off with a chance of a red in towards the left middle to try and take that one carefully. And send the cue ball in towards the top part of the table. Where's the cue ball going now? He missed the red, and he had a second chance to get that one in towards the middle pocket. Very close, but in the end it's a chance not taken by Higgins. It was a difficult shot for him, to be fair, in terms of bridging over the entire bunch of reds and the pink. And has he got away with it though? He inevitably has given a shot away in towards the left corner for Chomp, but I don't think the red that Higgins has actually missed himself is going to be potable, which makes Chomp's life a bit harder there. But the world number one manages to recover. At least gets the red in. Now has got a little bit of a distance in between the black and the cue ball here. And nicely done there on the black once again. So probably not going to win the frame from this visit to the table, especially with the way the reds are set up right now. As it stands, of course, you know, he only takes one shot from Chomp, as we've seen in frame number 2, to spread the reds out in the perfect way there for him. Right now he finds himself a point behind of John Higgins, and still having 2 reds available there after this black is going to disappear, hopefully for Chomp, into the right corner pocket. Play that one with quite a bit of power here. Get himself lined up on the red in towards the right middle. And maybe he's actually got the angle right now to try and have the cue ball cannon in towards the reds. And what a shot this is. Once again, a brilliant split from Chomp. And gets himself on a perfect combination of shots. And now all of a sudden he has turned the position from being really bunched up and close there to the one that can almost certainly gift him the frame here. And what a shot, and what a way to change the entire trajectory of the way this frame has been going For the first time in this match, Judd actually finds himself leading at least on points here. And if everything goes the way it should go from here, it should be a frame cushion to his name as well here. And 13 points advantage there, 99 points still on the table. But out of those 99 points, you're probably going to have 5 out of 6 reds being in perfect positions and more than possible. So just having looked to see there from John's point of view, as he gets the blue in towards the right middle. So now 19 points separated into 2 players. Trump is going to take the red, missed by Higgins previously, into the left middle. Trying to capitalize on that mistake from Judd himself. After, he was trying to line up a snooker on John Higgins, in the end having to play himself out of that position after not judging the pace of the cue ball too well, and ran out of pace in the end. He's now going to be 25 points ahead, and all those points are just going to stop mount there for John Higgins. And out of the 5 reds that are still available, as I say, Judd will probably need only 4 of them. He's going to be away in towards the frame number 2 win there for him. And all of a sudden, we're actually going to find ourselves only a single frame away from the intermission break. After, barely an hour since the match has actually started. So nice little pace to it so far. Nice little safety play in the frame number 2 and 3. And ultimately, the players that managed to come out on top of them, not necessarily performing too well there. John Higgins in frame number 3 and Judd in frames number 2. Needed a second invitation, both of them. And of course, some moments of brilliance already by the world number 1. And a little bit less so from the world number 6 there. He's done well in the opening frame to get himself 2 breaks of 61 and 23 to actually get him the opening frame win. But ever since, it has been a little bit of a Judd show. It does look to be continuing this way. As we're finally seeing some sort of consistency here from Judd. Those types of shots that he was getting the cue ball in towards the main bunch of reds and splitting those out with the first time of asking. Once again, playing those rest shots there with conviction after running himself slightly out of position. He's now gone 42 points clear. So the next red is surely going to put him way beyond the reaching point there of John Higgins. And he's going to try and find his lock in the next frame there. And so far, once again, as I say, flawless performance from Chom's point of view in frames number 2 and 3. Apart from obviously misjudging that shot on the yellow, which came to him by, a bit of a unlucky shot from Higgins. He was in control of that position. And didn't really run himself out of position anyway. Tried to pot the black in towards the left corner. As Trump certainly does get the frame ball under his belt. And it is going to be another frame to his name right here, right now. And yeah, ultimately when Higgins tried to go for the black in towards the left corner, he managed to pot it. But unfortunately, as he can in the cue ball in towards the reds, one of the reds has followed with the black there. And ultimately, it was given away as a foul shot. Trump potted the red in towards the yellow pocket, tried to roll the cue ball in towards the yellow. And ultimately had it face himself. Some difficulty of getting out of that shot. John Higgins get a chance to get himself a second break opportunity here, but ultimately missed out on the blue. On the red, I should say, in towards the left middle. As Trump seems to be running away with it now. Absolutely flawless and just making that look so effortless there from his point of view. As he rolls the yellow in very, very nicely here. But ultimately, it does look like he's going to run himself out of position on this green. So now a break of 82 points. So could still be a century break, of course, for Judd after very much unlikely of circumstances. But just as I say that last time around, does seem to be a little bit of a commentator's curse. But it is now the breaks of 82 and 93 that get Judd a 2-1 lead against John Higgins. As we're now only 1 frame away from the intermission. And finally, we're seeing some of the glimpses, consistency of the best form of Judd there. Having some brilliant long shots and some fantastic breaks to go with those as well. As he gets himself now into a frame cushion for the first time now up against John Higgins. As the man from Scotland has to try and be a little bit more active, I would say, in terms of, you only had, realistically, only had one of those chances in the frames 2 and 3. He was unlucky with that single chance being presented to him, and in the end, all of a sudden, after being 1-0 up there on Judd, he now finds himself 2-1 down, and with a task off, can't really lose this frame now, because that's going to put all sorts of advantage towards Trump, and going to put all of those struggles towards Higgins' point of view, but of course still having very much a high scoring match here with the breaks of 61 from Higgins, the breaks of 82 from Trump, and 93 from Judd as well. The referee's going to try and make this as quick as possible there as he tries to re-rack the position, and just goes for the pink to be respotted perfectly. Once again there, a little shout out to the crowd. Very much a lot of noise was made there yesterday, especially when the likes of Jordan Brown and Mark Allen were featuring. Couldn't hear what was going on there on the table of Karen Wilson against Jago Kyan there, because all of the audience, of course, was very much focused on the home favourite being up against the world number 9, the winner of the British Open, the runner-up at the China Grand Prix, that has been knocked out there, and we're going to have the North Island Derby with Mark Allen up against Jordan Brown, so we're going to have at least one of them in towards the semi-final, and the problem is, of course, the crowd are only going to witness one of them, and of course the winner of that match will play either Judd Trump or John Higgins, and so far it's still looking like it's going to be the world number 1 that is actually going to progress as it stands here. John Higgins has to try and get himself a better break-off shot than he's managed to produce in frame number 2. Nothing wrong with that one, to be fair. But ultimately, it was enough of an indication for Trump to take that one away from Higgins and put it into a frame-winning break of 93 points. So the only shot that Higgins had to play at that time. And once again here, just as I say, he needed a better break-off. I think he's going to be very lucky if Trump can't get through to this red into the left middle. I mean, referee's going to have a look at this, which is probably a sign that it's actually not going to be available for Trump, but clearly has been out of control there from Higgins' point of view, and just like he was in the second frame, he leaves away another chance, of course, for Trump in towards the right corner pocket, but with a black being covered up there, Judd decides to go for probably the smart option there, send the cue ball down the table, and not go for any of those risky attempts just yet. Great matchup. Yeah, I mean, we've got 4 wonderful quarterfinals, one better than the other. You've got Tom Ford against Julia Long, the two players that, not necessarily going to be as popular as the top-seeded ones. I think one of his top 31, and the other one is top 26 or something, so 2 outsiders, as you might call them, and very much the underdog story. And you also have the Jordan Brown up against Mark Allen, one of them world number 55, and the other is the top 10 player, one of the 4 that actually remain in this campaign. And you obviously have Karen Wilson up against Jack Lisowski, 2 very much attacking English players. And then you've got a British derby here with Judd Trump up against John Higgins, and so far the match has lived up to every sort of expectation in those early 3 frames. Looks like we can have a safety battle once again here in frame number 4. As John Higgins is just going to get the cue ball down the table here and try and potentially get it in behind the black. It's probably going to be the perfect outcome there for his point of view. And what a shot he's played there. Wonderful attempt. And the problem, of course, from Higgins' shot there is I think Trump is going to be very quick to get down for the shot and just play it into the bunch. So even though it was a great piece of shot there from John Higgins, it didn't actually cost him and get him anything at that time. So right now, Higgins just has a little look to see if he can get through to those reds onto the yellow pocket. And as that doesn't seem to be the case, I think the referee has called touch and ball, so Higgins will probably have attempt number 2 of sending the cue ball in behind the black there, with the most expensive colours going so close towards the cushion. Pretty much too much of a temptation there for you to actually turn down. But Higgins doesn't actually manage to produce just as much of a quality shot as he's managed to on the previous occasion. And Trump has got great visibility now to himself. And we'll try and eliminate that red onto the top part of the table. Send the cue ball in towards the green pocket, but doesn't want it too close to it. And a nice little kiss on the green. It might have actually helped him there. Because if you give a ball in hand to Higgins there, he's got a red waiting for him in towards the right middle. Which of course Trump has managed to cover up with the angle of the cue ball. So we have a look at the way it has gone. And the slightest touches on the greens probably still would have had the cue ball stay out there. But it would have been a lot closer towards the pocket than it actually was after the cue ball managed to catch the green. (71 to 29% in favour of Judd. I actually think that he's going to be victorious here. And even though I have gone for a 5-3 prediction, I thought it was always going to be about the way and just what version of Judd Trump we're actually going to see here. And I think we're seeing the best version that I've personally seen him all season. You know, stringing two brilliant breaks there together of 82 and 93 points. Even though he's managed to do that against Gary Wilson there in the last 16 match. He wasn't really doing that on a consecutive basis, and he was still making way too many errors there for my liking, and certainly managed to eliminate all of those. There's barely been one or two here so far in the opening 3 frames and a half. So far, John Higgins has to very much work hard for his chances. Who plays the winner here? It is going to be up against Jordan Brown or Mark Allen. So any one of those two is going to be up against the crowd here, you would think. With it being the home favourite that they're up against. And Judd Trump once again send the cue ball up the table. And give the turn back to John Higgins. So a little bit of a slower play here. Which, you know, was always going to be inevitable. And I'm just very surprised that we haven't seen that throughout any of the three frames that we've managed to witness previously. And Higgins, once again, getting the cue ball down the table. So far, it's just a little bit of a opposite side of play. Higgins switches the cue ball down the table. And then Trump just uses one of those reds to get the cue ball back up the table there. And in behind the ball colours. In the end, Trump probably will have to change the tactic once again and try to roll the cue ball in towards the reds here. And Higgins will have a chance to his name to actually roll the cue ball away from the main pack and get it down for the black ball cushion or in behind the black himself. You know, the plan was there, to be fair. Of course, had to be very careful, not in terms of taking on there, but of course, have to be careful with those sorts of shots there from Higgins' point of view. Because no matter where the cue ball is, if you leave a planting towards the middle, it's going to be available for your opponent to try and take advantage of. As Trump once again goes for the same tactic and plays the cue ball in towards the main part of the bunch of reds underneath the pink. And Higgins will go for very much the same shot selection himself. Send the cue ball down the table. And in towards the black here. Doesn't want to push the black on towards the cushion though. And it's actually managed to find a way around the black. And under it. Didn't look like there was a gap there for it. Higgins obviously finding that one. And just one more time. Higgins has to play away from the main bunch. As Trump has no other option than to roll the cue ball in towards the main bunch of reds. So get the cue ball down the table, but this time in towards the corner to put some sort of distance in between the cue ball and the colours. So of course, if you talk about those, you're going to have black still out of position in terms of it actually being possible. Pink is going to be compromised by the reds into 2 of the main pockets at least there. Not too sure if it's actually going to be possible into either right corner or left middle. Trump finally seems to take a step forwards here, trying to eliminate the red from the top part of the table, but ultimately had to do a better cue ball control than that. Leaves the red away to John Higgins in towards the left middle. It's not going to be easy, this one. But I think the angle is going to be in favour of John here, because he can get the cue ball up the table with no real risk of catching any of those reds in the way. Maybe he actually wants the cue ball down the table there and have himself lined up for the pink in towards the left middle, but surely that's just going to be too much of a difficult shot to take on, and also leaving the cue ball way too close to those reds in case he misses there. Red, which is still not a guarantee there for him, in towards the left middle as he now tries to chase a 2-all draw here going into the intermission, and the cue ball seems to be going towards the bulk line area, but as it goes exactly on the bulk line, it's not really going to make it any better from John Higgins' point of view, unless he just gets himself a couple of points from a foul shot as he tries to get the cue ball in behind the green to have Judd snookered. Obviously, don't do the thing that Judd has actually managed to do in the previous frame and get yourself snookered in this position. In the end, I still think it's going to be a cheap escape there from Chomp's point of view, because the left-hand side of the table is free of any reds and therefore free of any danger for Judd to just try and get the cue ball towards the main bunch of reds and get some of the space on towards the main pack of reds there, but just has to be careful he doesn't catch the pink, as he has managed in the previous time of asking. And I mean, that's exactly what he's done. And just as I said, he has to make sure he doesn't catch the pink. He catches the pink, which was the only way he was actually going to give a position away to Higgins. I'm very surprised that they haven't given 6 points of a foul shot there to Higgins, but I certainly will, because I do trust my eyes, and there's no way he actually caught the red first. And this now gives one more chance away to John Higgins, and just when it looked Drop was going to be running away with it, potentially on his way to a 3-1 lead. And, he loses the safety battle twice in a row there, gets himself into a problematic situation. Even though there was a way out of it, he still didn't manage to hit the red with the right way for him. Now John Higgins has to try and run away with it. I think he'll ask the referee to clean the white here. He's got a lot of reds to choose from. Some of them to go in towards the left or right middle, and the others are going to go in towards the corner. But ultimately, you've got 123 points on the table. You've got 14 points of a gap here to your name. And just play through the shot here. On the blue, get yourself lined up on one more red. He's now on 12 points. And just has a look to see if he's going to have this red available in towards the right middle. So has to stun the shot and get himself lined up for the blue one more time. I think it's going to be the main colour for him to try and use here throughout the majority of this break. Just has a little look to see the position of the red, so make sure that he's going to be lined up perfectly on it. And, just eliminate those easy reds there for him. It's still going to get yourself 25 points or so, and ultimately get yourself onto the lower part of the table to try and make your way through with the cue ball. So once again, just has a little look to see if he can avoid the little contact on the blue, or does he have to play the screw back shot once again here, using the entire width of the pocket here. So match time has just gone over 1 hour in terms of the playing time. And it looks like we could be heading in towards the intermission with it being 2 frames each. That's certainly going to be on the plan and on the horizon now for John Higgins, already 31 points clear. And just not being too happy with the way he's landed on this red. Maybe he'll have to go for a rest shot, or at least an extension there to his name. Therefore, compromising himself of getting actually on the blue with the right angle. Yo, it's Saram. Hello, Saram. Nice to see you, my friend. Haven't heard a while from you, but as I say, nice to see you. So, play through the shot now from Higgins. Get himself lined up on the blue here, in towards the yellow pocket, but ultimately, could have done better. He was always going to get some sort of contact on those reds. As he can still try and go for the blue in towards the yellow pocket, but in the end, I think getting the control of the cue ball and getting himself lined up for the shot of the right corner is going to be a massive challenge. I think he's going to catch too much of the front jaw. Yep. It's going to be a chance given away there. Higgins was complaining of not having motivation. I think he has now. Really? Higgins probably strikes me as one of the most disciplined players on the tour there. And probably the last person that needs motivation there. Who needs motivation when you've got discipline? The words of Alexander Usyk. And all of a sudden he's the heavyweight world champion now. I don't think the professionals really believe in motivation. Apart from the likes of Ronnie, of course, which, you know, they have the passion for the sport because of this motivation. And therefore, if you don't have the passion, you don't have the motivation, you don't have the willing to play, you can be as disciplined as possible. But, you know, if you haven't got inspiration, you're going to struggle with it. But as I say, a bit surprised to hear that from Higgins' point of view. But with the way he's played, I don't think he's been lacking motivation. I just think he's been lacking a little bit of a clinical edge here. And, you know, Sijawi was getting him through those chances, and there were signs of little errors from Higgins' point of view, but C wasn't able to pounce on them, apart from frame number 2. And it looks like Judd is going to be here to play, and potentially here to challenge John Higgins. As it's now 4 points for Judd's break, as he's now 22 points down. Get the red in towards the right corner. And get himself lined up for... Well, of course, it would have been perfect for him to have himself lined up for the blue. But ultimately, that's not going to be the case there, with the blue being out of position. I mean, I say that's not going to be the case. He may actually have to go for the blue, even though it's completely out of position. Very close towards the yellow pocket, but it hasn't got nowhere near as much of an angle as he would need on the yellow. And in fact, the angle that he does have is going to be the wrong side of it. So probably take the blue and try and get the cue ball in towards the main pack of reds here. Higgins was on holiday for his 50th birthday, having loads of fun with family, and said he found it hard to get back into practice. Well, no, that's just normal. I mean, if that's what you're going off, I mean, that's just normal. I mean, when you're enjoying the holiday practice, I don't think he was talking about the actual snooker play, because if you don't enjoy playing snooker, you're not going to be in this sport. Because I think the majority and 90% of players are going to be here for the passion and because they're so good at it. But it's a very different situation for you to actually get into practice, because everyone he's been saying it's, you know, it's a bit demoralizing sometimes for them to have that consistent 4-6 hours worth of practice, five days a week there. Hi guys, how we doing? JJ Snooker. We are doing very nice here, enjoying some great snooker in between Trump and Higgins. So far, Higgins has been slightly on the receiving end of things. Dying for frames I am. Hopefully tomorrow. Yeah, well, I mean, I think Judd would have been on his way to actually have this one wrapped up and won there, but he misses the green with the rest shot, and it probably was one of the easiest parts of the shot. He managed to get the cue ball in towards the main pack of reds, but in the end, it is not going to be the way for you to go. If you're going to miss the pot, and you're going to leave that red away there to Higgins, who already has 21 points lead to his advantage. I was at the Northern Ireland Open on Wednesday. Nice to hear that. And I'm just trying to think what the matches actually were on Wednesday. I think you would have seen Brown in the action, or maybe actually confusing him with Allen. May have been Allen against Wollaston, or something like that, from the ones that I can remember. Selby against Lisowski as well. Could have been on the program for you. And Higgins now just having a look for 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 extensions to put on his queue, for him to make sure he's going to reach this red in towards the left corner. He's going to have himself positioned on a couple of more there, both into towards the left and right corner after this shot. Watch Mark Allen and Wollaston. Yep, just as I say, brilliant decider. And brilliant of Ben to manage to come back there and get himself in the equation. And Brown, hug you. And, Brown against Hugill. Yeah, I've seen that. And I think it was 4-0 in favour of Jordan Brown. Maybe wrong on that one, let me know. As Higgins gets himself once again here on towards the pink. After getting a very nice red in towards Ali Carter versus Jimmy Robertson. Yes, the one that he had a 3-0 lead and then he managed to lose it when he was actually on the break there and got it into a decider as well. Karen Wilson, against whom, if it was Ryan Day, it was pretty spectacular and a really nice performance to watch. Yep, there you go, versus Ryan Day. 4-1 he won that match. And he's managed to do it with some of the great snooker being played. Yes, you've had pretty much... Yeah, Brown won 4-0. He wasn't... Yeah, I've just seen it. One thing I will say about Brown, he doesn't really play this the way that, you know, I like to watch the snooker being played. But in terms of him being able to shut down players in the way that he's managed to do it so far, Carter played well and switched off overall and short. Yeah, well, it's, you know, Carter had to be withdrawn yesterday from the last 16 match with Joe Yalon for personal reasons. The official statement on the WST Tour states, so can't give you any more context than that. Higgins now getting ever closer to actually getting himself that frame win and a 2-all draw going into the intermission. He's now 47 points clear. Still 59 on the table, so a couple of more reds played with expensive colours, and it's going to be first mini session over and done with. But ultimately, I just think it's going to be very important for him to get some sort of angle on this thing, because yeah, he tried to get the cue ball pushed through those reds. In the end, it doesn't look like he's going to end up on anything here. Long day JJ, and the drive up and back wasn't pleasant. I bet it wasn't. And it depends where you actually were driving from. But, and stay over next time. I live in Dublin, so it's a 2-hour drive up and back. Well, yeah, I suppose it could be worse, but he ain't the best for you. As now Higgins gets himself the frame ball over the line. So just all about getting this red in towards the left middle. And I mean, he is going to miss this one, so this is where I think the stats is going to come into place, because I am very sure that the broadcasting team haven't actually put the early 6 foul points from John Higgins' point of view, so we'll have to wait and see if that's the official scoreline, or maybe we'll have to adjust the points tally, because technically it's a big difference now, because it's 51 points that Chomp is trailing by right now, and for me it's 54 there. Yeah, and they got home at 2 AM and struggled at work yesterday. Yeah, I bet it was. But hopefully it's all been worth it. And now you can try and enjoy the road back to the routine. As Trump has gone for the red in towards the yellow pocket there. And in the end he actually managed to get himself somewhat close to the pink, but not close enough for the potting angle first. So now Higgins has to try and restore himself back in control here and potentially get one of those reds in towards the cushion. Maybe that will help him at that time of asking. And just has a little look and see if he can try and send those reds with the plant there in towards the yellow spot there. Of course, the pocket is going to be covered up by the blue, and also the plant is looking nowhere near that pocket at all. So maybe just having a little bit of a look to see if he can send the cue ball in towards the green pocket instead and have minimal contact with those two reds. Nice little shot from Higgins' point of view in terms of the trajectory of the cue ball, and it's all about how much of those reds down the table Chomp can actually see here. Did a challenge when I walked in the door of the venue with WPBSA coaches and did well, posted it on our channel if you want to have a little look sometime, maybe on Interval here. Yeah, I'll have a look. Maybe I'll have a look at it. We'll see about that. And when I was there at the British Open, they've had a little table in the main venue which you could just have a nice little play around with, which was nice. You know, had like sort of six reds at that time on a mini snooker table. And all 6 colours with the pockets there. And Nice shot there from Chomp in terms of the idea, but the execution wasn't probably quite as nice as it could have been there from his point of view. Leaves the red there for Higgins to try and take. In towards the left corner. Gonna leave him vulnerable here to some sort of danger play. And twice, John Higgins has got down on this red shot already, and he's gone back up there on both of those occasions. Third time lucky there. So has to guarantee himself a good position on the cue ball first. That's going to be the main focus for him. And in the end, he hasn't done that. And where's the red's going to finish? I think he's probably going to finish in an alright position there. He's still going to give a red away to Watchalong, but ultimately, remember, I am probably going to go back on here like this. And we're going to go with the same scoreline. With WSD clearly not being too clinical to adjust the scoreline just yet, so we may as well just follow them and go with the flow. Chomp has got a red available there to his name in towards the left corner. Has to be very careful and actually get himself a perfect trajectory on the pink. And ultimately he's going to miss a red there, so those tables are mint. The cloth is like silk, a privilege to have a go on it. And it was the same table the lads are playing in there. Would have loved a few frames on one sometime. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I actually had a feeling of it, but the way it looked and the way they were doing little works on it midway through the final was actually quite nice to see. And you could see was a really high quality there. And it is going to be high quality match being played even further here, because it's going to be a 2-all draw going into the second mini session, because John Higgins has just managed to get the red in towards the right middle, gets himself lined up for the pink. And even though he misses this one, it's still probably going to be frame conceded from Chomp. Although it does feel like he's going to have a goal for it for at least a couple of more shots. The pink wasn't fouled in there. Mind, that's why not scored. Yeah, you know what? I am absolutely going to be refusing to believe that that wasn't fouled. Because you have to trust yourself with the eye. And I'll have a look back on it. Maybe I was wrong on it. But for me, it was 100% he got the pink first. Obviously, with no audio, I can't actually hear the referee. So maybe he didn't call the foul. But as I say, I'll have to just watch the replay and do a little VAR check. So for now, the battle will resume, and it shouldn't be too much of a difference though, because Higgins managed to get that red into the right middle. It's now 2 snookers needed for Chomp to get himself back in the contention, and just get the cue ball down the table here and try and get this red in towards the safe play. But in the end, it was a very risky shot there for Chomp to try and attempt. And if he's left this red available there for Higgins to see any sort of part of it, he's probably left the match there for the frame there for the taking. Nice shot by Chomp to move the black there. It was, but I think it was a while back, to be honest, because even though he has moved the black, he's just left the red on there for Higgins, and it's going to be certainly frame over. And frame to John Higgins, managed to win the opening frame. John managed to take 2 frames of his own back-to-back there, and Higgins responds with another frame to his name. So we're going to go into frame number 5, with it being 2 frames each. And the intermission of 15 minutes is to follow. I mean, the frame is technically still not over there, and it is now, because Watchalong had a think about it, and certainly feels like there's no point trying to recover 5 snookers here. It is now Watchalong 2, John Higgins 2, going into the second mini session with all to play for. Both champions playing, well, far from the best there, but some playing some of the really good snooker, and the best of the action is yet to come. Stay tuned in. We'll be back within 15 minutes time as the intermission will unfold. And once again, before you know it, the intermission is now over and we're back to the main action in between the two great champions. And this time it's the break-off time for Judd here as he tries to re-establish his lead, which was 2-1 at some stage. You know, he was trying to get himself into a comfortable cushion of leading by 3 frames to 1, but in the end it was always going to be John Higgins' frame to lose, as he had a nice little break at the start of that frame. And right now seems to be involved in another safety battle here with Chomp. Trying to see the little plant in towards the right corner. Doesn't look like that's going to get him the reward though that he was looking for. And probably actually going to get him into a little bit of trouble here, because that red that he played previously is going to stay out there for Judd to take in towards the corner. And all about the next colour, of course. Should Chomp be successful on actually going for this red in towards the right corner. Very important shot now, and the real test of the second mini session here. And ooh, the red almost jumps out of the pocket there and goes on the cushion on top of it, jumps back onto the table. Ultimately, it's still going to be a shot for John Higgins to play, and the red over jumping the cue ball there. And still, Trump is not going to get away with this one. Let's see if he is going to be able to get himself onto the break here. John Higgins gets a red into the left corner, but all about the next colour position. Of course, after the previous shot from Judd, he's going to have the black compromised in towards the left cushion of the table. And, he was potentially trying to develop the black that I mentioned previously, and in the end doesn't look like that was the case, so we'll have to go for the blue, the wrong side of it, but I think it would have been a purposeful thing for him to try and do, as he has got a red onto the bulk line to try and play in towards the yellow pocket. So now being 6 points clear, trying to run away with it here, and ultimately doing a very important thing there for himself, as he has to be very careful with his performance against Judd, and he has to be clinical, something that we haven't really seen in some of those frames. You know, obviously, the 2 frames that he managed to take were seeing some good breaks there from Higgins, and frame number 2 you probably can exclude from there, because the only shot that Higgins actually played on that frame was his break off, so probably it's all about frame 3 there, that you could say Higgins could have done better there, having a little chance of the red in towards the left middle. Didn't manage to take that one in, so has to focus on the chance that has been kindly presented to him here by Judd. Takes the brown in towards the green pocket, manages to get that one in. And he's not necessarily going to be on the red though, in towards the right corner. So he has to have a look for an alternative there. And, well, if you talk about the Q-tip, I think they all use similar ones. But yes, he did start putting it closer, seems to go on back to longer again. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a bit of a weird one, the Q-tips, because you never quite know with the players when they come up with those new solutions. You know, Ronnie O'Sullivan actually changed his Q-tip on a couple of occasions there in the semi-final of the World Championship, and we all seen the pictures of some of his cues being in the bin there. And, in the end, John Higgins still going to run himself out of position here. So going to be a chance given away to Chomp. Don't think he's got a red available in towards the left middle, because that would have been a nice little bonus for him to get his game on the way. And just has a little look to see if he's got the reds available to try and send into the main pack there and get the cue ball to cushion in towards the bulk cushion there. And maybe he'll try and get the cue ball in towards that red that is actually closer towards the left middle and try and get the cue ball up the table once again there, whilst pushing the red into somewhat safe of zone. So he has a little look to see if that's going to be available. He needs to see a major part of the red, of course, for that. And the red is going to go way too close towards the yellow pocket, but ultimately, is he going to be in behind the brown? It looks to be. So, John Higgins managed to get away with a minor chance there. Ronnie O'Sullivan takes so much risky shots. I mean, he was. He's no longer at the tournament here, and we'll have to wait for the China International Championship for him to actually come back. He was taking some of the risky shots at his last match to this date, which of course would have been a quarterfinal against Guy Wilson, where he lost out by 5 frames to 2 at that time. And John Higgins probably has to go for a cross double now on this red. And send the cue ball up the table there. Nice little spin applied as well, but ultimately, I mean, it had to be a lot better judged in terms of the pace there, because the red has been given away here to Judd into the right middle. And yeah, John Higgins will know better than anyone. That was a waste of a shot there for him. He was unlucky not to see that red. That jump, as Mitch does the safety on previously. But in the end, it's going to be one more chance to the world number 1. As he rolls the red in with pretty much no pace, obviously trying to get the cue ball on towards the black here into the left corner. Nicely done. And back in towards the main trajectory here of the way these frames have actually been going for Judd, especially when he's been on the breaks himself. As he rolls the black in towards the left corner. He's now on the 8 points. And if you talk about the reds, which has to be the first thing for you to have a look at, the black, the pink and blue are all going to be available there on their spots. In terms of the reds here, he's got a line of reds that he can try and sort of take out one by one there. And if he does it, he'll be able to accumulate some serious points of that. And right now just rolls the pink in towards the right middle. It's now 15 points. For Judd here, as he's 4 points clear. The pink obviously has to go too close to the reds there, so Chom knew that. On the previous occasion he had to play the shot, and this time he'll have to use the black to his advantage. So roll the black in towards the left corner, get himself lined up on one of those reds, just underneath it. Nice shot once again there from Chom, so trying to run away with it here once again and re-establish his lead. Ultimately, he's been... Well, he didn't have to be behind ever since frame number 1 there. And has been leading on 2 of those occasions with the gaps of 2 frames to 1. But right now, he can try and make it the second time of asking and get himself the 3rd frame on the board and ultimately be more than halfway there in towards the semi-final with John Higgins not really... it was one of those times for Higgins to actually, if you play a safety shot the way he did and he was trying to get the cross double, I don't really get the area that he was trying to send the cue ball, because that red was always going to be available in towards the right middle, and it wasn't like the position was closed up, any of the colors were available. It's probably the chance that he's going to win the frame here to Judd if he manages to just hold himself together and eliminate some more of those reds. As I say, it's a little bit of a straight line there for him. And if he just takes those out one by one, he's going to be having a great chance to his name of trying to pot all of those reds and get himself lined up for the more difficult ones in the future. For now, takes one more black in towards the left corner. Nicely played here. Being very straight on this red though. So may actually have to reconsider his options and go for the red in towards the right corner. Doesn't seem to be the case to do that, so may actually have just about enough of the angle to play this shot here, and he plays it quite nicely. So he's now 37 points clear, and around 75 on the table. Rolls the black in again. So in terms of the performance from John's point of view, of course he had breaks of 93 and 82 now, and he can have at least one more 50 plus break here, with it being a break of 55 points. And of course counting, being on the black here, so I think it's going to be a straightforward road to the frame ball here. I'm not too sure if he's going to be able to get to some more reds there underneath the pink. Should he be able to sort of guarantee himself that John Higgins won't be coming back to the table? Right now he's 52 points clear, so if he gets the red in with the black, he's going to be 60 points clear, with 59 being on the table there for John. For now, gets the red in really nicely here, and he's going to be very straight on the black though, so it's all about trying to find that minor angle to get himself onto that position, and having a look to see if any of them are going to be playable. Of course, no sign of a plant being available into the left corner. Should be GG's from this position. I mean, it should have been, and once again, it just tells you how much of a problem that one miss and one misjudgment from Higgins was, and similar to the single mistake in that frame number 3 there, and not inaccurate break in frame number 2. It looks like it's going to be the only invitation that Judd actually needs there, producing a break of 70 plus once again here, and just having a look to see if he's actually found himself lined up on this red in towards the left corner. Probably has there, but it's going to be very touch and go there for him to actually try and get this red in. In the end, he may have actually caught the wrong red first, but of course it ain't going to matter for him in terms of still getting the red in towards the left corner, overplaying for the black slightly, and he's going to be just trying to get this black in, and don't think we're going to see any more of John Higgins. And there's the confirmation. Very quick frame there, and very quick action by Judd as he now gets himself once again and re-establishes his lead by 3 frames to 2 now. John Higgins has got it all to do again, up against the ace in the pack here that does seem to be firing some great breaks here. Still yet to see a century break, but breaks of 51, 71 and 82 and 93 already produced by Chom, and he managed to win 3 of those frames there already, looking to become the first semi-finalist here in Belfast. As I say, he will be his first semi-final appearance of the season of a ranking event, and well, very much trying to be back on form there. You know, you could argue that the quarterfinal appearance against Mark Selby at the Shanghai Masters wasn't really the one that you can count because of it being not classed as a ranking event, and one of those invitational ones that you can't really get through the qualifiers. Trump winning 1 visit, Higgins needs to do the same. Absolutely. You know, so far, I wouldn't really say, you know, Higgins' issue has been winning frames in 2 visits, because ever since he got that minor break of sort of 18-20 points, he managed to back it up there on the 2 of those occasions. That was in frame number 1 and frame number 4 there. Ultimately, I just think he has to be a bit more aggressive, because he's been way too passive, and Trump has been trying to go for those chances. He's been missing them, and he's been giving away chances to Higgins, and he sort of said, you know what, I know I'll do that, but I may as well settle it and play my own way, because that way, even though sometimes I am going to give away the position to Higgins, I'm also going to have times when I'm going to have breaks of 70, 82 and 93 there, which is the way for me to actually win those frames, because very rarely and pretty much in no circumstance you're going to see the breaks of 71, 82 and 93 especially being counted there. Let's see if John Higgins has got something to respond here, as he's ready to get the 6th frame underway. In a very quick succession there, we had the first one over and done with. Let's see if Higgins is going to have something to try and respond with himself, as he tries to get himself back level there against Judd. So ready now to have the John Higgins break off, and it has to be better than the one that we've seen in frame number 2 and 4. And I mean, it is better, but it's not 100 times better really, because still it leaves a red there as an invitation for Trump. The problem for Judd is going to be the fact that the black is covered up there, especially for the angle that he's looking at. So it's going to be pink or nothing. In terms of, you can't really ask Trump to play the screw back shot now on this red because of how close the cue ball actually is on towards the ball cushion. So alternative, of course, is just trying to apply as much topspin as you can and get the cue ball up the table significantly there. But let's see what Trump has actually got to offer. He said that he's going to go for this red, and he's gone for the topspin option that I mentioned previously, but of course that's going to compromise the potting angle massively, and that's going to mean that he'll miss a chance, but ultimately it's not going to give anything easy away to Higgins himself there. Probably the right shot to play from Trump's point of view, especially when you're 3-2 up on Higgins. John is having a look to see if there's going to be a 3-ball plant aimed in towards the left corner. And, well, very important for him to actually try and get some of the traction on here. On the cue ball, of course, if he does take this plant on, because he has to make sure, in the case of a failure, he gets the cue ball up the table there. So, in the end, refusing a plant, but still generating enough power on the cue ball to get it away from the main danger zone. And just having a look to see one more time here for Trump. If he's got a black in towards the right corner, and I mean, the plan that John Higgins was looking at previously is no longer there, of course, with him compromising the position of reds, but ultimately, don't think he's played too good of a shot there, because he's left the Trump a nice little invitation in towards the left corner there. I didn't see previously, but I would expect this one to be made there by Trump, and it certainly is going to be, because it's a lovely little effort by Trump to take the red in towards the left corner, and just like he was in frames number 2 and 1, it starts off the frame with a lovely little long pot there. This time it was into the left corner, and well, one more mistake from Higgins and it could be a very costly outcome. Trump didn't want to catch the red on the way in though, and that's going to compromise him massively here. He would have liked to be very straight on the red and trying to apply the topspin to actually have the cue ball run away from the main pack. Instead, he probably has to go into the danger zone. So after playing the blue here, he's got himself with a little bit of a short selection to choose from. He's got a red that is going to be easier for him to try and play. Or he's got a red that he's going to get him. He's going to get the cue ball, in towards the main pack of reds. And then he just has to hope for he's going to emerge on, well, blue probably. Don't think he's going to have pink available to him. So he's gone for the more dangerous shot. And in the end, is he going to be on anything? He's managed to get the red in. And I mean, if the black is playable, which I don't think it is, then he's all right there. But if it's not playable, then it probably has to be the blue. Can he see enough of the pink to take it in towards the middle? And yes, he can. I mean, just about. And he caught the front jaw there. And I think he is going to be not too happy with the way he's finished on this red, but he's still alive on this break. You know, making it difficult time for him after catching the cue ball marginally on those reds. And in the end, tries to get this red in towards the corner. Had to miss the brown and green. And respectively, what a shot. This is brilliant transition on towards the ball colours. And one of the best shots that we've seen from Trump in terms of the positional play. Getting the really difficult red in towards the corner and still guaranteeing himself a nice little position on either brown or yellow, I would say, to choose from. Get the cue ball down the table and have, if he's got a couple of options to choose from, just get the cue ball into the main pack. And I mean, he certainly has got so many reds to try and choose from, and it's all about just trying to get those ones that, you know, even though they are in open play, they're going to be in the way of others. And once you eliminate those, it's going to be another position for the clearance potentially there for Trump. Yes, so far it's difficult to judge that at this stage of the frame. John Higgins has to focus on his opponent making a mistake one more time there to get himself back in this frame. Not perfect, but not too bad either from Judd Trump here. Once again, still compromised by the fact that the black and pink are not available into the majority of the pockets. I think the pink is only playable into the left corner, which is going to mean the fact that Trump has to send the cue ball up for the blue here, unless he has to sort of take emerging actions and send the white in towards the ball colours, which he has managed to do previously. So this time lands a little bit in between the two lines of ball colours and the blue here. So it's still going to be alright to take the green on, and it should be alright to take the blue on as well, as he pushes one of those reds towards the center of the table, which is going to get him a lot more freedom there in terms of the room. And I think just play the green here if you get some sort of angle here, and get yourself lined up on the shot in towards the left corner. Higgins just having a little look to see if there's going to be any sort of a slip-up chance there from Trump's point of view. So green, and has to play this one with power. In the end, gets the cue ball down, and perfect shot once again there from Trump. Something that I will say, the biggest contrast from Trump's point of view so far has to be the way he's been playing with the cue ball, because he has been absolutely perfect. And gets the red in as well. So yeah, something that we haven't seen against Jackson Page, Anthony McGill or Gary Wilson was Judd Trump was just being able to cue the cue ball exactly where he wants it to and have the white position in the perfect sort of angles there, control it with the future shots, and therefore even when you are compromised, you're still being able to get yourself out of all those issues and have yourself lined up for a prime shot on the next time of asking. And this time Trump will use the pink in towards the left corner, get yourself lined up on the red to develop the black here. And well, make sure he's got all the tools now that he needs for, if not the clearance, then certainly a very comfortable frame win. And this is the form of Judd Trump that I haven't actually seen in the entirety of this season. And this is probably one of the most dangerous players that you're going to see on the World Snooker Tour, because, you know, one thing that this Judd Trump has is consistency, and consistency at snooker, when you combine it with the quality and the precision and the cue power that Judd Trump has got, is probably going to be very difficult to stop for anyone there, whether it's going to be Ronnie O'Sullivan, Neil Robertson, Kyle Wilson or John Higgins himself there. I think Higgins might not be visiting the table anymore in this frame either. Well, this is just the thing there. If you go back to frames number 2, if you go back to the frames number 5, and if you go back to frame number 6, which is what we're seeing right now, Higgins only played a handful of shots in those, and you can't really blame him for making pretty much one mistake in those 3 frames, but it looks like his shots in those frames are going to be, altogether combined, are going to be probably less than 10 in total, and therefore you just have to admire the brilliance of Judd Trump so far, getting himself another 50-plus break. We've seen 5 of those and counting in the 5.5 frames here. Still yet to see a century break, of course, but ultimately I think the focus for Trump so late into this quarterfinal is going to have to be on the actual sort of frame winning chance that he's got ahead of himself, as he rolls another semi-difficult red in towards the left middle. He's going to be pretty straight on the green though, so I'm not sure whether that was scheduled or planned there. Where can the match be seen? Live on TNT Sports 2, or you can have it checked on WST Play. It just depends which region you're watching it from. Eurosport should be able to broadcast it for you as well. And Trump just having a look to see if he takes the green on, which, you know, it's way too straight for him actually to go for it. Has he got a plan there in towards the right corner that he can try and have and seek the help of? It looks to be the case there. So in terms of the points, he's got 53 points of advantage. He's going to be 56 with the green here, and he's going to get himself into 75 points still on the table there. So manages to get the green in. Just doesn't want to have one more red in the way of the cue ball. So 56 points ahead, 75 on the table. So all about maybe trying to get himself one more red and one more colour. And he's going to be within the touching distance of a frame ball there. But ultimately, if he gets this red in, he's pretty much guaranteed to have himself at least one more red to play for. And he hammers the red home in towards the right corner nicely. Compromised slightly there on the black, but was always going to take that risk. With it being worth it in the end, and rolls the black in nicely. So Judd seems to be back to his best here, or somewhere there about it, because you can't really criticise him for any part of his game. Probably the biggest mistake of his match so far has been that roll up to the yellow, which ultimately didn't even cost him the frame there. And the breaks off 71, 82 and 93 can be accompanied now by a break of 65 points and counting, and seems to lose the cue ball slightly though on the black as he gets the frame ball in, so maybe just got a bit carried away there and rolls the black in comfortably there. So certainly not going to see any more of John Higgins here as well. 71 points advantage with 59 points still at the table, and if Higgins wasn't coming out with 10 points there, needing for him to be safe in terms of the points available on the table, don't think there's a lot of chance of him doing that when there's 12 points up for grabs, and certainly not now with John producing one more brilliant shot there into the left corner, and a little bit of a exhibition play on the pink. In the end, he's going to miss this one, but just probably another break for him to accompany the ones that he's managed to achieve previously, and it's the break of 72 points. And it is going to be a break and a frame conceded there by John Higgins. And Judd all of a sudden, after the quick break of 15 minutes, has turned up in a little bit of a beast mode. 2 frames in quick succession there. John Higgins has to win 3 on the bounce there to make himself the semi-finalist. What certainly will be comeback of the tournament. And Judd is now, seems to be running away from it. Running away from John Higgins. Only needs one more frame. And it's going to be over there. Higgins has been playing alright snooker, but he hasn't been able to match their style. And the way of ruthless play from Judd that is now, well, having all sorts of breaks. If you count the ones 93, 82, 71, 73 there, you're not even counting the 51 that he's managed to achieve in frame number 1 that he still lost out on. You know, he's been really, really good there, and he's been rock solid ever since. Sorry, not frame 1. It was frame number 4 there. Rock solid ever since frame number 1, because that was an early fluke that got him the only point that he actually managed to score in that frame. And, you know, at that time it looked like, you know, it was going to be a struggle for Higgins. But John managed to respond himself with the 2 successive breaks. The break of 61, by the way, was achieved in that opening frame by Higgins. And ever since, it's just been bit of a steady downhill decline there from Higgins, and Judd has been on a sort of successful rise there for him, and still doesn't show any signs of slowing down as he goes away from the arena, but may only have to return for one more frame here. John Higgins has got it all to do ahead of himself, and I mean, where do you start here from John Higgins' point of view? He needs to have a good break off, but you know, he's had that on the previous frame, and, you know, Trump managed to find a red, which he went for. He still didn't manage to take it, to be fair. But, you know, after a little bit of a safety exchange, it was Trump that came out on top. Higgins played a weird shot, in my point of view, leaving that red available to Trump on the previous frame. And in the end, it was a chance well taken there by Trump on, well, now 4 of those occasions. Let's see if he can make it 5 out of 7. And the prediction of 5 frames to 3 there was very optimistic there, I would say, especially with the way that we've seen Trump and Higgins play respectively. If you talk about them sort of separately, away from each other. And Trump has managed to turn up with a great intention to play. And he's managed to react to all sorts of problems that John Higgins has managed to create to him, and in the end take the game to the new level, and the game that is going to be very difficult to stop on whichever level you look at it, whether it's going to be Mark Allen or Jordan Brown, or it's going to be the winner of the top side draw, Karen Wilson, Jack Lisowski. Judd or Tom Ford are all probably going to be significant underdogs if Judd Trump is going to continue this form that he's managed to produce in frames number, well, 6 and 7 at least. 5 and 6, I should say. And you can take frames number 2, 3 into that equation as well. But starts off with a bit of a shaky break-off now. Trump clearly returning from the bathroom break and going for the shot straight away there. You know, it's a little bit of response to the mistakes from Higgins previously, but of course, if you're playing well, it doesn't mean that you can underestimate the power and the strength of combat that John Higgins possesses himself. You know, all it takes is one chance given to him as well for him to try and shine and take his game to the new level. But doesn't want to be catching the red though, as he did. Still gonna be on those black after a nice little pot there. In towards the left corner. And right now it is going to be a chance to take the black in towards the left corner. Get the cue ball in towards the main pack of reds here. But it's a really difficult shot for him to try and take as the black. And what a nice shot this is. But is he going to be snookered with the black there? He's gone a bit quiet there, and you can see why, because the black is going to be in the way of the cue ball. So unless he's got the shot in towards the middle, which I don't think he has, to be fair, it's going to be a massive waste there. And well, wasn't really too lucky at the start of this match. I think the luck has gone out of the equation lately. Trump just probably has been the better player, but this may be one shot too many there for John Higgins to try and take. So send the cue ball away from the main pack here and get it up the table. Probably won't be the worst outcome there for him. Just has a little look to see if that red is going to be possible though. In towards the right middle. And in the end, the answer is going to be no there for Higgins. So the break of 8 points, and that's going to end there for John. And back to the table steps Judd Trump. After, you know, his break-off mistake only cost him 8 points there. Through no fault of his own. John Higgins probably didn't actually mean to end up on the red, on the right corner. And because he was always going to know that the black was going to be in the way of the cue ball. He wasn't trying to take the black spot. Therefore, was trying to generate different sort of reds for him in towards either one of the middle pocket shots. But you know, you can just see that apart from the yellow being a bit in the way here of the queuing, it certainly was worth it for Higgins to take that extra safety shot. Because all of a sudden, he's going to have himself lined up on the red, in towards the right corner. So he can get past the blue, you would think there. I think he's seen enough of the red for the cut. The black is going to be waiting there for him, so shouldn't have too many issues. Should he get this red in and get himself on the black? But of course, should he miss it, it's going to be a chance given away to his opponent, and he is going to miss it. It's all about the red's position. He's nicely on the black here, but of course, he wasn't trying to get himself on the next red. It was always going to be difficult, and I think Higgins there just taking a bit of a conservative route in terms of not trying to catch the blue first. Therefore, had to sacrifice some sort of angle. And let's see what Trump can do. He probably can send the cue ball up the table as his best decision here. And get the cue ball lined up in behind the brown in terms of Higgins not seeing the red. Very close to the left middle, which could have been used. There's a safety shot there for him. But instead, he's going to have to do it off the right-hand side of the pack there, underneath the pink. And send that one up the table with the cue ball. So it's going to have all of these reds released, by the way. So has to be very careful that he's controlling the cue ball. And I mean, very close there to not missing the blue. And in the end, that would have been pretty much game over there before he actually started for Higgins. Because if you give away a free chance in this position, and he still might have actually done that, with Trump eyeing a red in towards the left corner. I mean, this is possible there for Trump, and I think the line of the cue ball is actually going to be favouring Trump in terms of him being around the black and in towards the ball colours. Lovely little strike with the cue ball, and the red is going to drop in. Is he going to be on the yellow? No, he's not. Very close, very good effort, but in the end, not going to be on the colour from here, it would seem. Unless he takes a very risky brown in towards the green pocket. Seen those taken there by John, but majority of them have been missed. But of course, that was until this brilliant form of today. So let's see if that's going to be the case this time around. He's going to catch a bit of a front jaw, but not enough for him to compromise the shot. Moment of brilliance once again there, and probably the match of brilliance so far from Judd. Ever since the opening frame, he's been absolutely flawless and playing some of his best stuff that we've seen in the entire season. Stephen Hendry did say it's just a matter of time until you're going to see Judd back at his best there, because you don't become the world number one and dominate the snooker for 2 calendar years pretty much there, alongside Karen Wilson and Ronnie O'Sullivan, and then just become absolutely horrible player. And you can see where Stephen is going with that. Right now, Chomp can have this red available in towards the left corner to try and take a little bit of screw back to get himself lined up for either pink or black if it's actually available in towards the left corner, which doesn't seem to be the case. So probably pink to take in towards the left middle, and then have yourself a couple of reds lined up in towards either right corner or left middle. And all about the next couple of shots for Chom to try and make the difference earlier on here and clean the position away from those nasty reds for him to play. Of course, it's not going to help at this stage that the pink is going to have to go on the yellow spot. And once again, Chomp to take the red in towards the left corner. And has he got himself into a little bit of trouble? He needs to see the blue there to get himself onto the right middle. Might be that knife of Higgins. Yeah, he's just been flawless from Chomp, hasn't it? It has been such a domination there for him. And he's been playing such good stuff here against John Higgins. He's now 4-2 up and currently leading by 18 points to 8. Right now, takes the red in towards the left middle here, after he was just about able to get through in towards the blue into the right middle there. So 10 points advantage with 115 still on the table. All about trying to apply that little bit of pressure on Higgins, and earlier on at the stage of the match, and he has managed to do it. It looked like he was going to take a commanding 3-1 lead at that stage, but Higgins managed to come away with a moment of brilliance there for himself. But ultimately, it doesn't look like that's going to be enough to challenge the world number one. And at the end of the day, you have to say sometimes you're the world number one and the world number 6 for a reason. And that moment of brilliance probably could have been matched there if John Higgins managed to put in the similar performance to what he did yesterday against Si Jiahui. But in the end, I think that performance against Si Jiahui himself would have been different had he been up against a more informed player. Fair to say, Si Jiahui himself struggled a bit with form and momentum. Hasn't been any sort of struggle for Chomp in those latest 3 frames. And once again, they're just so brilliant with the cue ball control, getting himself on that red in towards the left corner. And now just trying to accelerate the cue ball for, well, maybe the last 10 shots that you actually will need. And gets himself very close there, to be fair, to not actually seeing enough of that red. So has to take it very straight there, which we have seen John Higgins miss those types of shots, but not Judd Chomp. Once again, flawless and position restored on the black. In terms of the reds, none of them are going to show any sign of a problem from Chomp's point of view. And he's just going to try and accelerate away from everyone. And certainly away from John Higgins. And the amount of breaks, it certainly is a bit of a weird one that we haven't seen a century yet. And we still have seen 2 breaks of 70 plus, 1 break of 80 plus, and 1 break of 90 plus as well there at that time. So, going to be straight on the blue though. So he's not over the line quite yet. And I don't think we're going to see complacency at this stage for Chomp, because I just think it's going to be such a smooth performance up to this point that, he has to just pull himself together for a couple of more shots there in terms of the concentration. And get himself lined up for 1 more red there with a sign of a mid-range shot, but it's not the one that is going to have him troubled, you would think there. Getting ever closer to that match ball there. 38 points of a gap, 83 on the table. And he's going to be 75 once this red disappears. and hammered into the pocket, but ultimately not hammered enough there. You know, it looked like he played it with all the pace in the world, but he's going to run the wrong side of the blue here. Unless he's got any free reds to try and go for, which has to be fair, but I mean, they're on the left-hand side of the table, and the way to play them is to get even closer to the left cushion than they already are. And the way to do that, he's going to have to go very close towards the brown. And in the end, he's going to catch the brown here. So not quite the end game. And we are very close to the last phase, of course, with the two players being probably very close to the ending as well. Judd being 52 points, leading John Higgins by 52 points to 8 there. So 44 points advantage, 75 on the table. He's looking to see if there's a plant available. You'll be having a little bit of a bad deja vu about this plant because it reminds me of the one that has actually cost him the frame against Jackson Page and against Elias Lesser earlier at the Home Nations, which in the end proved to be very crucial there for him. But of course, at that time, he didn't have a 4-2 frame gap to his name. But he clearly decides to go for something better. And what a shot this is. I mean, if he misses the brown, what a shot this is. This is by far the shot of the match. And it has to come from the world number one at the best possible time for him. Because to pull off that cut is beyond incredible there. The angle, you couldn't actually see the red to actually play a safety from it. But the fact that he's managed to drop this one in, this is certainly going on the highlights reel. And what a performance it has been from Judd. Surely there's no stopping him now. And GG's, well, he's a couple of shots from doing that. He's now 45 points clear. The brown will take it to 49 points clear. And just get the cue ball down the table here. And try and see if sort of Chomp is going to be able to get the cue ball down the table. He's certainly having a good look at this one. Of course, helped by the fact that the brown is going to be very close towards the pocket. But actually might consider taking the green on in towards the left middle. I mean, don't necessarily understand that shot. Of course, it has to be something to do with the positional play because he can clearly drop the brown in. So Chomp clearly not feeling that he can actually get through those reds. And the cue ball's going to be pacey though. And easy on the red though. I mean, I think he's overrun the red that he was trying to play for. And he's probably underrun for the red. That would have been attempt number 2 there. So let's see if he can get through to it. And he just about can. I think it's still going to be a bit of a stretch here for him to try and take this blue. Sorry for the red there. And try and get himself a position on the next blue. Nicely done though. Once again by the world number 1. So now 59 points on the table. And 49 points is the gap of Judd. So he's about to make that 54. Now with the next red, it surely is going to be frame and match in favor of Judd because, 54 points is going to be 55 points clear with 51 on the table. And still no sign of him missing the next shot on the black. And he certainly is going to be GG's now because what a fantastic performance it has been from Judd. 55 points clear and what a flawless performance in the last 3 frames. Absolutely no answer there from John Higgins to that performance from Judd. And it only seems to get better and better there. Once again, 3rd time that we're going to see a 70 plus break from Judd to add on to the breaks of 82 and 93 there made previously. And the lonely break of 61 points made by John Higgins in the opening frame is going to be his response in terms of the break building stuff. But there has been no response to this flawless performance from Judd. Higgins is always going to get a frame or 2 away from him. But pretty much no player in the world right now is stopping this form from Chomp. No mistakes, no errors, flawless cue ball control, brilliant cue action, and some of the nicest spots and, one of the hardest ones that you actually see throughout the entire campaign here at the Northern Ireland. I'm very much looking forward to see his matchup against one of the players from Northern Ireland, of course, if it's going to be Jordan Brown or Mark Allen. We're yet to find out there. But this match has certainly lived up to expectation. Let's hope that the match of Jack Lizowski against Kyle Wilson there, the world number 2 featuring on the main table, and the defending champion is going to be back in action straight after this match is over. So not long to wait until then. And for now, Trump had to make sure that the green was actually potable into its own pocket, as he's now edging ever closer to that century break. As he's going to get the highest break of the match here. So the break of 99 points. And surely just roll the brown in for a break of 103 and counting. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. You can run out of superlatives there when you try and describe this form of Judd Trump. It has been a sublime performance from him. Some of the brilliant pots that you actually ever see. Not just in this tournament, but in the entire season. And I mean, if he manages to keep up this form, no matter if it's going to be Karen Wilson, Mark Allen or Jordan Brown, it's going to be pretty much mission impossible there for any of them to challenge him. Once again, playing a little bit of exhibition style and surely trying to do some sort of trick shot on the black. Maybe he'll just try and roll this one in for the clearance. And of course, he will do that. Brilliant performance and something that you can't really describe with words there. Judd Trump is through to the semi-final with a dominant win against John Higgins. He has got a little fist bump there, so he clearly means a lot to him. And what a way and what a story it has been so far for Judd Trump. The story doesn't quite end though, because he's going to feature in the semi-final. And unfortunately for John Higgins, he certainly played his part today, but it was nothing he could do to stop that formidable form of Judd Trump. And you'll have to try and bounce back in the later tournaments there, potentially at the China International, of course. But for Judd Trump, the story will continue tomorrow, and he's yet to find out who his opponent is actually going to be there. And until then, I'll speak to you soon for the match of Jack Lisowski against Karen Wilson, another world number 2 featuring there, and of course the highest ranking seed left out in the tournament with him being the defending champion. MBD, thanks for covering. Thank you for everyone that has actually joined in. And feel free to actually try and check it out for Karen Wilson against Jack Lisowski in about half an hour time. And yeah, speak to you all soon. Thanks very much for watching. And be back for more action of the quarterfinal, semi-final and the final stage here at the Whole Nation Series.